Hold on. You sound a little upset. You mad, huh? Welcome to the podcast where we say the things that you're thinking, but won't say out loud. From the hottest debates in sports and politics, the controversies that have everyone talking. Nothing is off limits. We break it down unfiltered and unapologetic. So buckle up, because if you aren't mad yet, you just might be by the end of this episode. Let's dive in. So welcome. I want to welcome everyone to the MaDD podcast, conceived with brotherhood and presented with love. I want to thank everyone for the views that we got last week. It was very positive in terms of feedback that we got. So hopefully we can cover some great topics and have some great discussions. I just want to introduce everyone to our panel today. We have a couple of members that are out, but we may have a couple joining. First member again is Ken. Don't make me slap you, Merritt. We have Richard. Give me my money free. Anthony. My network is bigger than Verizon's.
Wow. Shit, I don't know about all that, bro.
And then we have me, your host / additional panel member, Paul. Where them big bass flipping.
Okay.
So we covered a range of topics in our first session or first episode. And we're going to kind of keep the same format for this one because these are the hot topics of the day. So the first thing we want to hit is the Super Bowl. Okay. And how did our projections pan out in terms of the actual results? How'd they tie out? So Kia, why don't you jump in first since you had the most upset look on your face?
Because I'm probably the most upset. I can't wait till like next week. In fact, I can't wait to this day next year when there's another Super Bowl champion, so we don't have to talk about this Super Bowl again. So I guess it, the game was wild, right? They beat the hell out of Kansas City, which I know a lot of people love because I was at the Super Bowl party and some of the most bizarre things, like even the Commanders fans in the room were pulling for the Eagles. You talking about wanting to slap somebody, P? I'm like, they're like, who going for the Eagles? And I'm like, and I'm a Commanders fan. They're like, I'm a Commanders fan too. I was like, but you going for the Eagles? I was like,
you couldn't bear it, huh? You just couldn't bear it, huh?
I left at halftime because I just couldn't take it. Between the game and those people, I was out. I'm still mad.
How did your prediction match up to the results?
Hey, my prediction was wrong. I said I picked the Chiefs. I said you don't bet against Pat Mahomes. But I also said if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you got to beat them down. And that's exactly what they did. I don't think anyone had a clue that the defensive line of the Eagles were going to dominate the way they did. They totally manhandled the Chiefs offense. I cannot recall the last time I've seen the Chiefs have that many 3-and-outs where they were just not on the field. And I also think that when the Chiefs and Spags tried to dial up the pressure for the blitzes that they would put on the Eagles, they were ready for them. They had prepared for them. That team was coached very well. They took and maximized the talent that they had on that squad, and they stomped a mud hole in the Chiefs. And I will say the gap between I was trying to figure out, who can be competitive at this point now, right? You got a lot of good AFC teams, but that gap is pretty close between, your Kansas Cities, your Buffaloes, your Baltimores, maybe Cincinnati's back in the mix, maybe Pittsburgh's back in the mix. Maybe Houston comes back in the mix. Maybe San Diego and Denver's on the rise. That gap is, I feel, closer than what we're seeing in the NFC. You got Philly, you got the Commanders, you got. I don't think Minnesota's going to be back. I don't think Detroit is definitely going to be back in the mix outside of their adjustments to OC and DC. But that they're still going to be battling the AFC. And Ken, I know you don't like to hear this, but unless something drastically changes, the Eagles are built for another run next year.
Oh, they are, no doubt.
And you may have to hear them again, but it's encouraging to see that you got the Commanders who are going to be there as well. So again, my prediction was wrong, and I'll lean on that. Give me.
Let's circle back around because I love Hump's analysis of the game and like the pecking order of the NFL. Like so after Rich goes,
that's coming up next.
Okay, cool.
Yep, that's coming up next.
My bad.
So Rich, give us your. You did say you thought they were going to have to crush them to get the win.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
I also was glad to be wrong about the rest. Although that first series where I did enough of a situation.
Which call? Which call, Rich? Which wall?
It would have got called. It potentially would have got called. When AJ Brown did the face mask play.
Here's what I say about that, right? I would say because I was going crazy in that room with all those Eagles fans, like, oh, that was a bad call. I was like, okay, I'll give you. They never make that call because AJ Brown does that a lot. He's done it to Marshawn Lattimore. He did it 4 times this season. I watched it and was going crazy every time. But where people are right, they never call it. But I don't know how you can argue with them calling it when he clearly creates space, right? So, yeah. And sorry to cut you off, though.
Theory similar.
The blow to the head. The blow to the head was the other call that they kind of try to have a makeup call on because that was kind of weak.
Very.
Yeah.
I mean, first.
Rich, you're breaking up, bro.
Yeah, Rich, you're coming in and out.
I was entertained by Paul sending me on Instagram where GloRilla lost $128,000.
She been on the Chiefs?
On the Chiefs.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. I saw somebody had $1 million. I saw somewhere somebody put $1 million up on the Chiefs.
Yeah. Now the thing about GloRilla's her comment was she didn't just say she lost 138,000. She said, "I'm selling something. Who's buying?"
You know what?
After she lost the 130, she's like, "I lost 138,000. I'm selling. Who's buying?" I found that to be hilarious. Perfect. Now I didn't even make a pick. I can't say I didn't care who won, but I did ask the question last week: is this going to be a boring game? And I heard a lot of people say they thought it was boring. I really didn't look at it like that. I like seeing people execute at their highest level, and that defense with no blitzes the whole game did what they did. And Mahomes, that surprised me the most because it wasn't that the pressure got to him. It's that the passes he made were bad. Like the interceptions were bad interceptions. Some of those just incompletions were like, it was a day and night thing. I really didn't get that.
Hey man,
that was shocking to me.
I've been waiting for a week to go off on this because yeah, Mahomes with those 2 passes, the 2 interceptions were awful. But Andy Reid and Matt Nagy basically set him up to fail because they never changed their game plan to get the ball out of his hand faster. They never made any adjustment. I can't believe it. That they just because think about it, like even the touchdowns they scored, the garbage touchdowns late in the game were bomb. They came into that game thinking that they can go deep, right? Which against that umbrella defense, that's already a bad assumption, right? But then if you can't even block the front four, how in the world can you think you're going to go deep? And it wasn't working, and they never changed it. They made the game really easy for Fangio and Jalen Carter and Davis and them guys, Sweat and them guys. It was easy for them because they couldn't block them, and they didn't chip, they didn't get him out the pocket. But one time they got out the pocket, he threw the pick. It was terrible coaching by Andy Reid and Matt Nagy.
Terrible adjustments, and I think the one time they tried it, Kim, was right after the half. They came out gunning, they got that first down, but then they went right back to it. And because after they had the quick pops, and they had the first down, they tried to go right back to that deep stuff, and that's when they was lighting them back up again, and they wound up punting the ball. So you're right. I mean, I think they had a game plan. They didn't adjust out of it. They thought they could overcome it, and it's worked for them all season. But yeah, that was bad. I was screaming, get out the pocket, roll him out, set up a blocking scheme to at least give him some room out there. But to your point, when he did that, he threw a triple interception.
Yep.
I've watched the Eagles a lot, obviously, right? And the way what makes their defense so good is that pass rush, but then the umbrella coverage. And they're not going to give you, because it's basically a quarters, but it looks like a cover 2, but every defender, those 7 defenders are looking at the quarterback at all times. So you're not going to really easily get behind them, right? Because the safeties just keep dropping, and they got good coverage underneath. It was really a bad game plan, and I'm basically shocked at the way Reid put Mahomes out. Mahomes did not play well, without a doubt, but he didn't get any help either.
Yeah, for sure. In between the two halves, we had a halftime show that everybody was waiting for. So let's get our reviews on that halftime show. What'd you guys think?
It was a work of art. I thought it was a work of art. I think a lot of people missed it in terms of in the moment, because one, as a fan of Kendrick Lamar and listening to his music, I still didn't understand the words they were saying. Like, I don't know the words to all the songs, right? GNX is it's not on my top list right now for his albums. So I haven't listened to it like 500 times like a lot of people have. So I don't know all the words. So imagine this is the first time you ever see or hear him. It went over a lot of folks' head. I had some very heated debates over that. But I think if you're paying attention to what was going on that set, you could appreciate the show. And you realize, when we talked about, Lil Wayne and Cash Money not getting the props, that show had purpose, and you would have never seen something that deep from Cash Money. It'd have been booty shaking and scantily clad. And then
what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
I'm just messing with you.
That doesn't diminish the value of his show for what he did. And I think a lot of people are, I don't need all that. I'm here to be entertained. I don't need to see all that. I don't understand. I don't get it. And half the people aren't trying to get it. So I think to me, you've always seen write-ups after a halftime show, who performed, what they did, good or bad or indifferent. I've never seen this many articles, blogs, posts about the show, their thoughts, and then the detail behind it, and people starting to break it down. I think it's spot on. And we talk about folks using their platform for things that are of substance, and I think it was. If you start to look into it a little, and forget all the Drake stuff, forget all the diss stuff. Everybody, everything that relates back to Drake. Get past that. Get to the message of what he was trying to do in the show, and I think you can really start to appreciate it.
Yeah, Rich, how about you? Thoughts?
I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think. I mean, I didn't understand it. I really don't listen to rap like that. So to each their own.
But gotcha. Ken, how about you?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? I always think of like Hump. Count you Hump amongst the 2 or 3 kind of deepest kind of music people that I know kind of pick up on everything, right? I didn't realize that you weren't like into GNX. Like, yeah, I didn't listen to it. Like you said, I didn't listen like 5,000 times. So and then on the other side, Rich, you, right? And so I think that's a really good kind of dichotomy, because I felt like that's what like this has been about ever since the show dropped, right? Like if you're in the Kendrick, and and you know his library, you know his style, you know how he do stuff, you were like, that was a work of art, right? But if you don't know him, I've seen some people who kind of knew him on the periphery, and they were like, they might grade it a B out of style and stuff like that. But if you didn't know anything about him, you probably did not enjoy it, because his like, he stays true to hip hop, right? He loves to tell stories, right? And I thought he did a masterful job of putting together the choreography, to tell the story, to get the Drake shit in there, but not, stay within the bounds, right? Because over the years, we've seen a lot of people not be able to stay within the bounds. He didn't curse. He cleaned up the lyrics sufficiently, right? And just the whole way he did his thing in Kendrick Lamar fashion was a work of art. I probably have watched it 5 times. Right.
Yeah. No less. And again, don't get me wrong. I've listened to GNX, but I'll be honest, the brother puts out such deep music. I'm still playing catch up on a lot of his stuff. I've been there since, I mentioned before the show, give me high power. I want to hear some high power. I know we're going to get high power on the stage. And what I found out, the reason why he was playing a lot of GNX stuff and not a lot of his bangers was because when he left Top Dog Entertainment, he's making more money now on every stream for GNX, because he's getting 80% of that money versus the 15% he was getting when he was a Top Dog. So it makes sense. He threw 1 or 2 in there, but he wasn't going to play all that old stuff. He was trying to get his new stuff out there. And I'm still playing, because I'm telling you, bro, there's not a time I don't listen to one of his songs. I pick up something else. I pick up something new, right? And I'm like, dang, I didn't hear that last time. And then you go, his music is so deep that you start going into researching on, what do you mean by that? And you start going back, and next thing you know, hours gone, 2 hours gone. And that's why it's taken me so long to really get into GNX.
Right. And I would say that's kind of the genius of the whole thing. Because he had to have known that everybody watching this is not going to be a Kendrick Lamar fan. But once that word gets out, man, look at all this hidden stuff that was in this. I think that's the genius of the entire performance, is that people were going to be talking about this long after just the performance. Because I was one of those that, I was one of those that when I saw it and listened to, saw the performance, I was like, so. But I didn't get that deep into it per se. But once you realize that there's a lot of hidden things in it, and what he was trying to do, that's just what makes it a kind of a classic. It's not going to be forgotten.
Pete, sure. Isn't it, to add to that, isn't it brilliant that he focused in on GNX and not the old stuff? Because I imagine the downloads of GNX, it's just through the roof this week.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
And every track from. And even little subtle things, like I think me and DJ on the chat was going back and forth whether he play, like my track last week was Whacked Out Murals, and Whacked Out Murals got one of the best intros, but as soon as the lyrics drop, it is hard. So he played that much of the intro, just the beat as the first as the setup. So I mean he focusing on GNX, and I think he got to be laughing all the way. Yeah. To the bank, considering what you said, Hump, about he's making more money on this one than he had the other. So just
absolutely, absolutely.
Yep. All right, so great halftime performance. Everyone's not gonna like it, but that's every performance, so that's the way it goes. Let's dive into some after game topics. So the first one is what does this win mean for each of these teams? For the Eagles. And even though the Chiefs didn't win, what does it mean that they lost in that game? Does it really mean anything? Or are we starting to see kind of a changing of the guard? Rich, you want to jump in on this?
And I think the Eagles, as Ken had elaborated earlier, they are set up, or was it? No, it might have been the Hump. They're set up for some success. I understand they're under the cap. They got money to spend. They got a lot of potential to do a return and do it gangbuster style. I mean, Barkley, Saquon probably would like a do-over because that wasn't his best game, but he was what kept that defense honest, in my opinion, because you could go to him and make them, play it right. They had to watch for him, so that made it so that the wide receivers could do what they do. So offensively, I see them doing well. They already got a bang-up defense just based on how they played. I mean, what a game to be a rookie and have your birthday and get a pick six all on that day. I mean, how do you come down from that? He's gonna be one on my 21st or 22nd birthday. You won't believe it. Yeah, Paul, we done heard about that. I don't know. I think the Chiefs got a lot of soul searching to do. I've read stuff that said that they're going to come back and get Tyreek. I don't think that that's the silver bullet. I think that they've got a lot of soul searching to do, and then there's the fact that Andy Reid might be leaving. So,
hey, they don't need no more babies in Kansas City, man. They probably got they ain't bringing him back, man. Ken, what you guys think? What does this mean, if anything?
I'll start off with the Chiefs. I think for the Chiefs, look, they're gonna have to do an honest assessment of where they fell, and that, in my opinion, starts with the offensive line. They got to take a hard look and see what they got to do there to improve. I don't think they need to get too excited about their receiving positions. Worthy is coming into his own. He had a great game, a couple touchdowns. I think he had 130 some odd yards, 140 some odd yards. He had a great game. They got Rashee Rice coming back off of injury next year. Pick and choose whoever else you want to plug into that offense. Kelsey may or may not come back. I don't think he retires with this bad taste in his mouth. I think he comes back. And between Pacheco and Hunt back there in the backfield, I think they're solid there. Offensive line is where they're going to have to really tighten up. And they're probably going to close some gaps. I think they have a couple of folks they have to pay on the defensive side as well. Choose between linebacker and defensive back. But they'll be okay. And again, they're still going to have to do the same battles that they had in the AFC this year. They may get knocked off, but they're going to be right there in the mix, and they're not going to totally fall off. And like Rich already said, Philly's set up for a good run here. They have folks contract signed, and most importantly, they're a young team, man. They just got that young energy that, the gift and the curse there is they're young and they can make that run. The curse is, they got there the first year, and are they going to put the same work in? And that's when the leadership portion is going to have to come in with Sirianni. Is he going to be able to keep those guys motivated, keep them amped up, keep the chip on their shoulder like he had them this year? That's going to be, in my opinion, the difference between what they can be and what they will be.
Gotcha. Ken, how'd you feel about it? The Eagles suck, right?
No, I wish I could say that. I'm sick as about them. Let's start with them. I think they knocked the Ravens off as the best complete team in football, right? Like, I think up until the playoffs, everyone still thought the Ravens was probably the most complete team. But I think Philly has, their run in the playoffs, probably secured them the mantle there, right? I wrote it down here. They got the best O-line in football, right? They got probably the most dynamic running back in football behind them. They got a top 3 wide receiver room, right? Maybe the Vikings, and depending on what happened with T. Higgins in Cincinnati, but that wide receiver room is right up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got, I think, a top 8 quarterback. I know we're going to talk about him a little bit. They got like a top 8 quarterback. They got a very skilled and talented D with a veteran D coordinator who plays a complex defense that they're going to get better and better at, right? Because you and I can ramble on about X's and O's in football all day, but their umbrella defense is just things people don't see, right? Like most people, like their corners don't have to flip their hips all that much, right? They just all of those guys who are super talented, always seeing the ball. Fans, it took them a while to get going, and I think they're ready now, man. And so they're the best team in football heading into the fall, right? On the other hand, I think the question is, have they broken the Kansas City mystique, right? Because Kansas City wasn't better than Baltimore this year or last year. They probably were not as talented or as played as well as Buffalo, because in the regular season, Buffalo beat them up, right? Houston was coming for Kansas City, but Kansas City just kept finding ways to win. And you just wonder, like, were they is the shine that mystique knocked off of them kind of going forward?
It looks like we have our other team member, panel member. Just want to introduce him. Tyron Detroit versus everybody Bond is on the call. So Ty, we're talking about. Good.
I was that sound like I got on just in time. Is he going off about everybody but Detroit? And I'm like, wait a minute.
But we only talk about relevant teams right now.
No, we talk. Hey, you might want to X that Cowboy fan out for this segment.
Hey, I said we only talk about relevant teams. That name hadn't come up to you.
We're gonna mute you up for that.
Don't put Detroit out of that mix. Talking about the best all-around team, because y'all beat a team with 21 players out. Please don't. When we come back healthy, you put us right back in there, because our 2 running backs are equivalent to their 1 running back. There's no doubt about it. You put them 2 together, they right there with them. Yep. Our offensive line is right there with them. Now, I do give them the advantage. Maybe even defensive line, without a doubt. You got to get that plus to them. And we got the quarterback for our system, but after he threw 5 interceptions against the Commodores, I ain't got nothing to say about him.
All right.
Wait, you didn't finish with the rest of the team though. Linebackers and DBs in Detroit. There's a lot on that Philly. The rest of that defense.
We don't talk about the losers on this broadcast. We talk about the winners.
I'm gonna let it go, because right now we sitting at home. But hey, just don't count us out. That's all I'm saying.
This was the question, Ty. What does this win mean for these 2 teams, or the win and the loss, essentially? But the win for the Eagles, the loss for the Chiefs. What does it mean anything at all?
I mean, look how close the first game was 2 years ago. I mean, to me, the biggest surprise is that Kansas City is back there, because if you look at the games they won this year, they easily could have. You could see this coming, but you didn't believe it until you saw it.
Right.
But without a doubt, this team wasn't built. And they did what you had to do against Brady. They got to Mahomes, and like Ken was saying, that's the key. We know that's, so everybody's saying the mystique going. No, that's always been the key. If you get to Brady, you can beat them. Mm-hmm. But nobody's been able to do that in big games, and that was the difference. And so the cheat code is to get to them, but you got to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
I know this ain't on the agenda, but what do y'all think? Do you think the Bills or the Ravens could have gave the Eagles a better run for their money?
Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens could have, but I'm biased. I think the Ravens are. I mean, they are far more position by position, better matchup than Kansas City was.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Rich. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know. Rich, go ahead. You have something?
No, go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, I know teams. Styles make fights, all that. Oh, that performance makes you think that the AFC is really, they might have taken a step, they might be a step behind that. I would think the Eagles for sure, but Washington's going to be serious business next year. And there's
they
some
got
teams
a lot of
there's some teams in the NFC. I would be surprised if they took a step forward, but just the way that they dismantled them, that game plan, I don't know, man. I just don't know, because it takes a lot of mentally to be focused for 3-4 years to get to a title. So that's why nobody's really gotten to 3 in a row in Super Bowl, right? But that mental exhaustion has to be something that weighs on you at some point. It's almost like they may need a little bit of a break, at least Mahomes for sure. Just a little bit of a break from all the limelight, just the pressure, just to get themselves back on their feet. It took Brady, 10 years at one point to get back to a Super Bowl?
Yeah. That's crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and still have as many as he has. But that's one thing we didn't touch on is that pressure that came along with the three-peat. Philly was playing like, hey, we ain't supposed to be, we're not, quote, supposed to be here. No one's giving us a chance. Let's come in and let's ball out. And you got to know that the Chiefs were playing with that hanging over their head of that three-peat of, man, no team has ever done it. We'll be the first to do it. That matters a lot. And so I think, I don't know how much it played in to their performance, but you got to think it was in the back of their head as well.
Oh yeah. Ty, were you just talking to your dog? Were you talking to your dog?
Yeah. Yeah.
They love to come up when you're on the phone, don't they?
Yes, they do. Well,
I'm probably the only one. I'm probably the only one that doesn't have a dog on this call. So.
Well, you might want to get one. You might get some attention at the house.
You might be right about that.
I'm gonna defend my boy. Kim came home and kissed him on the head, so he getting some.
Really?
Yeah, you missed it, Ty. Kim showed him some love.
I had the bark.
It is
I had the bark
Day
first.
Tomorrow.
He said he had to bark for it.
I had the bark first. Yeah. So. All right, so let's move on to the next NFL time. We got a couple more things sports-wise to cover. So, last big question, and this was a big debate. Where does this put Jalen Hurts in the quarterback conversation or standings? Where does he rank now in terms of is he an elite quarterback at this point? Do we consider him that? And Ken, I want you to chime in on this first.
Please.
I just don't know how, if you didn't have him as elite before the game, that this game made him elite. When the game in pecking order of what decided it was the Philly D-line, the rest of Philly's defense, Andy Reid and he and Nagy's bad play calling, then Hurts, right? And even if I go beyond that and go back to when they beat down my Commanders 2 weeks prior, that game they scored 7 rushing touchdowns. So if I just don't understand.
How many did Hurts score on those though?
He scored 3. Yes, I'll give him that. Okay, if you want to make him a running back, I get it, right? But he also is he as a Lamar and Daniels fan, I get the running part. I'm not taking that away from him. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, I just don't know how you can bump him up to top 5 or 6 if you didn't have, based off the performances that we had, because he had the easiest. The Kenny Pickett could have won that game.
All right. So Ken, I would say this, and the reason why I think it starts to come up in conversation now is because he actually won the Super Bowl and he was Super Bowl MVP. And like it or hate it, that is one of the criteria that a lot of talking heads will use when they start talking about elite. Joe Burrow got to the game. He didn't win it. He's considered elite. Your boy up in Buffalo ain't got there, and he's still considered elite, but he's doing a lot. He's making rushing touchdowns. He's throwing the football. So I think he has to be a part of the conversation. Is he there? Is he top 3? No. Is he top 5? debatable. Is he top 10, top 8? Absolutely. But I think he still has some ways to go. He has some things to show. But the track record shows that the kid is a winner, right? He's won at the college level. Even though he lost his job, he went and still balled out where he went to his next stop. He's won at the professional level. So when you start talking about—
if you play QB at Alabama, you'll be a winner.
Say what now?
If you play quarterback at Alabama, you be the winner. If you walked on and say, I don't need anything.
I'm not knocking that. It was a machine. It was a machine. But they've had some people in there who couldn't win too, right?
And I think that's more than indictment on him.
Right? And was a winner. Yeah, he didn't win a national championship, but he was a winner. He won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, you can't knock that. So again, and I'm glad you brought in Daniels and Jackson when you start talking about the rushing aspect, because I think that also adds to his value as a quarterback, because he can beat you two ways, right? Again,
I'm not so sure.
Great offensive line.
I'm not so sure that he can be. How do we know he can beat us two ways? Because he doesn't have to carry a load. He's got, again, the best offensive line and a great running game, and he has the easiest job of all the guys you name.
But
the way Ken's describing him, you'd think he was Trent Dilfer.
I'm saying
no, Rich. I love that you said that because by the logic that they use that he wins a Super Bowl, now he's elite. There are a lot of guys we can put in that category.
Nobody puts Trent Dilfer in that category.
Again, they scored 40.
Joe Flacco.
No, Flacco played a great game. The difference between the two, where you have to separate the two, is that he did it 3 years ago. So if this argument was 3 years ago, which is why he probably didn't get the credit until now, was he did it 3 years ago, you were like, okay. Then last year, they still won 10 games before they collapsed, and it wasn't him. So they still had a great season with him last year without the running back. So now you get to the Super Bowl, and the difference is that you do what you need to do for your team. He made the throws he had to make. I've never seen anyone that
you're apologizing and praising for him at the same time.
I'm not
apologizing. Do what you need to do for the team. Right?
I'm not.
You realize he had.
He did
you realize
everything right.
As a starter,
and
you realize as a starter, he had the fewest passing attempts as a starting quarterback since
we have a running game. That's fine.
I know he didn't have to.
So
that's
you
why.
Don't think if Mahomes had a running game, they would run him more? I mean, you can't punish. But he made the throws that he needed to make. And then what stood out when you said they had 7 rushing touchdowns, and he made 3 of them. I mean, that's pretty stellar right there. Because everybody can't do that. That's what separates him from everybody else. He's elite in what he does. Now, like you said, he's on the precipice, but still, if you want to give him another 1 or 2 years, but you get the 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, hey, it's saying something.
Philly got to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He didn't lead them like Mahomes led Kansas City.
Okay,
he doesn't lead them.
That's a hell of a statement right there. I don't know what to tell you. If he didn't lead them, somebody had to lead them. Somebody had to lead that offense.
You know who led them? Who leads them?
Who led them?
The offensive line that they had.
Okay,
right?
So we can take that award back. So we can take the award back from the running back too. Then, if that's the case, the line's so great. Then why would we give what's the running back? I forget his name. Hey, we don't need to know his name because hell, you can throw me back then. I can run the ball behind that line based on what you're saying right now.
You took it too far.
So you got a great line.
Hey, he already said Kenny Pickett could have won the game.
I said Kenny Pickett could have won the game.
He said you could have played Alabama too.
So Ken, let me ask you a quick question. You mad, huh?
Because he's number 8. He's number 8 on the list right now, and he did not go into a top 5 or 6 quarterback.
So who's he behind? Who's he behind? Let's count.
So on this list,
make sure you say on my list. You keep saying the list like that's God sit down. This is the list.
No, hold on. No. So hold on. You didn't ask me what list. The list is QBR. QBR in the NFL right now.
We're not doing that. That's not going to determine. We're not doing that. You can't do that.
You can't do that. You got Murray at number 6 or 7.
You can't.
No, Murray is not 6 or 7.
His QBR is up there. What QBR?
No,
list are you
he's
going
not
from?
on the list. He's not top 10.
Who's-
Kyler Murray was not top 10. Who?
Who's 2024?
Yes, he's not.
What's your
Number
list?
one,
Go ahead.
number one
Go
was
with your
Jaden.
listing, then. Go with your listing.
Number one was Jaden Daniel. Number 2 was Lamar Jackson. Number 3 was
Jaden
Patrick
Daniels is
Mahomes.
elite right now.
Yes,
So Daniel-
from on my list. But right now, I'm giving
Wow.
you the QBR. Right?
I say, is Daniel Daniels
Hold on,
elite?
Tom.
No. We can stop there.
I answered that. You may answer it again. Yes, I said
just
yes.
want to know if he's elite or not.
God damn. I said yes 3 times now.
Oh wow! See,
You said again?
that kind of killed the whole conversation. If he can be elite after one season where they won 8, 9, 10 games, then hey, I don't know. But somebody who goes to the Super Bowl twice wins it, but he's got more to prove. But I got a rookie who had a good run at the end in the playoffs. Wow. Okay, let's move on then. All right. So
I want to hear the list though.
based on his QBR.
Let's hear the list, kid. Let's see what the list is real quick.
I obviously ain't the one mad, P. You can put the you mad up for him.
I'm mad
Because when he's ready, when you're ready, I'll get back to the list. When he go, keep going. I'll wait.
Hold on.
ahead,
We go
So-
mute time for now, man. Go ahead.
Thank you. Number 4, they had Josh Allen. Right? Number 5, they actually have Bo Nix. Bo Nix as a better QBR.
I had Bo Nix at number 4 on that list. If you're talking QBR, but go ahead.
Okay.
CJ Stroud is number 6. Baker Mayfield, number 7. Then Jalen Hurts, then Matthew Stafford, then Russell Wilson. That's the list that came out of QBR.
Yeah. You lost me with Bo Nix, man.
So
I didn't- it's not my list.
I
I
get it.
had
QBR, but
Jalen number 5 on that list. But what rating do you have? Because I had Jalen at 65.4.
I just pulled the list of QBR. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah.
I just said dump the QBR, dump the top 10 by QBR. I'd say top 10.
I think Bo Nix was 66 and Jalen was 65, if I'm not mistaken. And that's 4 and 5.
Hey, guys, I got a question for you. It ain't necessarily tied up into this, but it might make for a decent segue. I don't know what next after this. Do you think that Jason Kelsey is kicking himself that he did not just hang in there one more rodeo?
Yeah. But it would have been 2, wouldn't it?
It would have been 2.
Yeah,
it would have been
2. Yeah. But I thought about him too, Rich.
Yeah.
From my ranking, P, I would not put Bo Nix ahead of him. I might would entertain CJ Stroud ahead of him, right? Because
but that's your list if you're going by QBR.
No. Now I'm talking about my list.
Okay,
right?
Gotcha.
I'm talking about my list, right?
Gotcha.
I think I would have CJ Stroud ahead of him.
Firecracker.
I think Baker Mayfield had a better season than he did. Baker Mayfield had a really good season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And with that, to me, that's what. And as I heard someone say the other day, I still like Matthew Stafford in compared to Jalen Hurts in certain situations. And so all I'm saying is, he before the Super Bowl, most people when they talked about 5 or 6, he wasn't in that conversation. Right. And then all of a sudden he wins in a game where his defense held the Chiefs to 23 yards in the first half. All of a sudden we're going to promote him to the top 5 quarterback. It's just narrative.
How many yards they get on offense?
How many yards they get on offense?
The Eagles.
I don't know. I don't know, but they got more bites at the apple because they had a great defense.
But they got them.
They got one.
Right?
They got one first down. One first down. Kansas City on their first pass, and then couldn't get any more. I'm not here to take away. I gave him. Do you disagree that he's 4th on the reasons why they won the game?
I don't agree with that.
What are your reasons then? You don't think that?
I'll go with the defensive line one without a doubt. The defensive line without a doubt of number 1.
Okay,
and number
keep
2,
going.
I'm gonna put him 2. I'm gonna put him 2. I can't help what the other team does. I gotta do my job when I did it. He scored a touchdown. He made
DeJean-
some hell of a passes.
Cooper
and he
DeJean had
and
a
he
pick
didn't
six.
turn the ball over but one time. He made a turnover early, but he played a dang near perfect game. So go by QBR.
Yeah.
It's so important in the other time. Don't get new
Good
now.
point.
Don't get
What are
new
you
now.
talking about? What are you
Don't get
talking
new
about?
now.
What-
QBR is so important. What was the QBR, Ken?
I don't know, and I don't give a shit.
Now,
I asked
don't
you a
count,
different
I'll
question.
tell you what. Hey, mute me, please.
You
Mute me,
put
please.
you
Just go
just
ahead.
put
I'll mute
you just
myself.
put his play ahead of Cooper DeJean's pick six and
So
Bombs
one pick six.
and Bombs pick
Because
in the red zone.
Because I
that
saw him
turned-
throw 3 touchdowns. That's why. I'm not going to take one pick six and put it over everything else somebody else did. Because to your point, the pick six probably came because the defensive line was so good. So, hey, who couldn't catch the ball if the defensive line so good? So give that pick six to the defensive line, who I said was number one. So move on.
See, listen to your logic. How in the hell am I going to give the D line credit for a pick six
so Cooper
when they didn't
DeJean
catch
gets
the
credit
ball?
for interception that the defensive line called.
You just rambling now, bro. You just rambling. There were 2 picks
everybody
there
on here knows. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying, huh?
No,
He's
I
giving
don't
Cooper
know what you're
DeJean
saying.
credit for what the defensive line did, but like offense didn't play it. Hey, because offense didn't do anything in that whole game, King. It was all defense.
That's the message that comes across, right? It comes
It
across
does come like that. They didn't score anyway. Anybody could have came in and threw that nice pass, that 60-yard pass, perfectly on the dime. Anybody could have done
Good point.
Anybody could have ran. You're right. Hey,
That's
and
not
to the point,
85
the
bears,
running back
86
didn't do
bears.
nothing that game.
I
The
gave him
running
credit
game
for
was
the pass.
shut down.
I'll give him credit for the pass. I'll give him. Kenny Pickett could have made that pass too. He was so open. He just went right over the top.
Okay, anybody could throw it. I've seen Kenny Pickett throw some bad passes, and we've seen a lot of quarterbacks do that. Please, I mean, you want to say that?
Let me interject. Let me
quarterback. If the
let me interject.
defensive line, the defensive back didn't hit the ball,
he
the
just
tip
on,
on
let
the Hail
didn't
Mary,
matter.
we wouldn't be talking
Let
about
me-
him right now.
let-
So,
Please
hey,
say
anybody
something,
could have
P,
made the throw, but it wasn't a perfect throw.
Jaden.
All right, I'm gonna mute both of y'all for a second. All right, I'm gonna interject here to your neutral corners, please. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this because this was never gonna get solved. And I see both sides, but I will say this: people underestimate the ability to simply execute the plays that are given. There are many.
I hope you're not including me in people. I hope you're not including me in people because that's not what I did, bro.
Okay,
That's not what I
that's what I'm
did.
saying. This is what I'm
I
saying.
thought he was muted.
I thought you were too.
Look, let me get y'all again. Let me mute y'all while I talk. Look, I think people do underestimate just the ability to simply execute the play. I think we see a lot of bad quarterbacking on many levels, simply because college level, high school, even professional, because the quarterback fails to assist the team in executing the play. I'm gonna get you, kid. I'm gonna get you. Just give me a second, all right? But I think that's a great point. And in terms of Jalen being elite, that's going to be up for debate. But I know he's getting paid like he's elite, so that's all that kind of matters at this point. You know, he's getting paid to be elite, and he got him a Super Bowl, and he did what he was supposed to do. Can't take nothing away from him. All right. Now I'm gonna let y'all out the doghouse at this point. But y'all both mad for sure. We're gonna move on to the next stuff. What you have to say, kid? You had a comment. What was the comment?
The one comment I'll make is I am consistent in this conversation in that part of the reason that I am like Hump, you've made the bet in our Joe Burrow debates with UP. There's always this notion of Joe Burrow did this, he owns Patrick Mahomes. And Hump, you mock that more than anyone because of what the defenses do. I am consistent. I think every quarterback, you have to look at what they've done in the context of the rest of the team they have, right? And right now, this dude, we just said, is playing for the best team in football.
Did you call the best team in football before the Super Bowl? I don't remember.
I was going to say, yeah.
Philly was never the best team in the football before the Super Bowl. Now, all of a sudden, they're this, without a doubt, the best team. You never said that before the Super Bowl. That is
Did you ask me that question, bro?
You never would
ask
say,
me that
I've
question?
never heard you in our
Let's move on to the next
ever
topic.
say they were the best team in football before the Super Bowl.
Ty,
Okay, Ty makes a good point.
I'll let it go.
Go ahead,
I'll let it go. But Ty, you know that I said midway through the season when we were looking at the playoffs, I said there's two teams in the NFC. I said there's Detroit and there's Philly. And I said, and Ken, and I remember this conversation. Ken jumped in and said, yeah, but we got to see if Philly's going to have that fall like they had last year. And then Ken, and Ty, you were like, well, all these injuries is going to be our downfall. But you can't act like anybody was talking about Philly before the Super Bowl. Come on.
And I want everybody to remember this face, right? Kid is definitely a little mad. So we're gonna jump on to the next topic, or jump to the next topic. The NBA. This is Kid and Rich's forte for sure is basketball. So we want to talk about the NBA All-Star break. And actually, the first thing we want to actually cover is All-Star game. Do we care to watch? I'll let you guys chime in. Then why don't you jump in this topic? And why don't we care to watch?
Well, because the league has become so prima donna. Like, you can go on YouTube all day long and look at the All-Star games from the past when Jordan and Kobe were still playing, and there was a level of competition that it was interesting and it was worth watching. Now it's, I don't know, it's a microcosm of the mentality that Jimmy Butler has displayed over the last few weeks. It's a level of entitlement. It's a level of I don't know. I don't know if they realize how privileged they are and how much it doesn't have to be this way. You can run your fans off. And the NBA is, in my opinion, they hadn't hit the panic button, but a lot of what is going on is not looked at in the same way. It's hard to well, you got your old school fans that are holding on to their teams, but I just feel like the NBA needs to find a way to sharpen their image, because a lot of people are watching and they're losing their love based on the way these players carry themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Anybody else have any input on that in terms of do we care to watch?
So P, I'm a big All-Star Weekend fan, right? I've been watching it all my life and always still look forward to it. But I've always looked at the game as an exhibition, right? And so in many ways, I don't get like all the kind of bashing of the game because it's an exhibition. Now, do I argue or disagree with Rich? No, I don't agree with the prima donna part of it. I agree that it's not worth watching. It's kind of it's become more of a skills competition than a basketball game, right? You get guys just not playing any level of defense and date that back to 30 years ago. I mean, I'll always remember when Isaiah Thomas was one point guard, Magic Johnson was the other, and they just was surrounded by now Hall of Famers, and those guys took that game seriously. Today, this is not what it is, but that didn't bug me, right? It didn't turn me off for the weekend. I'll probably put the game on one TV and watch, TV, something else on another.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I mean, I remember growing up watching it you had to see it, right? It was like no place else did you see that much talent on the floor. And you, at least at that time, you knew you were going to get at least a quarter's worth of competitive basketball because they started playing in the fourth. By that time, all the older guys had sat down. They let the young guys come in, and all the egos went out the door, and it became, I'm going to win this game. And that because there was some motivation behind it. There was some bragging rights, and there's only so a paycheck for a winner back then. But it has progressed into more of a glorified pickup game, and I can see those walking. I can go walk out down the street to the local park and see that if I want to see it, and see some bad basketball. It's a glorified pickup game, but in the context of what it is, that's what I take it. I like Ken said, I'll watch it in the background. I'll be doing something else. Won't be locked in. We'll see some highlights. We'll see some crazy dunks. We'll see some alley-oops. We'll see some long three-pointers. We'll see some crazy assists. But the game don't matter anymore. And I think the players recognize that. And it becomes a show to celebrate the NBA for the weekend, along with the skills competitions, the young rookies, the rookies games, or the next gen game, or whatever they're calling it, incorporating the WNBA. So it's entertainment. You watch the games for real basketball. You watch the good teams that are competitive for good basketball. The All-Star, it's in the background.
Yeah. Well, where I fall, it's got a combination of what everybody said. The biggest thing with basketball, I think the game itself, I think it's like that with any All-Star game now. I don't care what sport it is. So I'm like with Ken on that. It's an exhibition game to me, so that doesn't bother me. I think it's about the weekends, about celebrating the game. It's cool having the players in the stands watching and enjoying with their families. I just wish they would let the street players do the dunk contest so you can find something new. Because if you're not gonna and it put money on the line where they're gonna come out and really compete, and you're gonna see some things you haven't seen. I think honestly, when people complain about it, I think that's the biggest thing they complain about. And I think once the stars start being in the dunk contest, I mean, if we can't get Ja, LeBron in his prime, once you start worrying about the money, how you gonna look, because like Hump was saying back in the day, you made your name by that. You look at Vince Carter. I mean, I think it took him to another level. I mean, think about those players who went to another level by competing in it. Now with social media, it's become, if I lose, then what? And once LeBron kind of bagged out of that, and then it made it okay for other players not to do it, I think that's where that went away. 3-point contest, you still got the dogs in it. I mean, even last year when they combined the WNBA player with Steph, it made a difference. It could, but I think if they did something different with the dunk contest, and I like bringing those street ball players who, hey, you on YouTube, you see it all the time. It would make a difference. And my last thing is what Rich was saying. It's one of the fewer sports where there's only 5 players on the court. So 1 or 2 players can affect the whole game. And that's what's tough about basketball and changing the dynamic where the NBA has to do something, because no other sport can 1 or 2 players get together, go where they want to go, have 2 years to 3 on the contract and do what Butler's doing. And it's easy to do in basketball, and that because of the numbers, because 1 or 2 players makes a difference. And so they need to figure something out, because you don't want to lose that, that shine that had, that love of the game. Because I mean, look at Luka. I mean, for what Luka did, think about it. If I'm a Dallas fan, if Luka was in Detroit, they're like having Isaiah Thomas leave in his prime. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's who you knew in your mind for the next 10, 12 years. This is my dude. And now it's still my team, but that love, I mean, it hurts. And it's one of the few sports where you see that happen. And and that's another story altogether with the whole Luka situation. But for that to happen, you don't see that in other sports. It's crazy.
I agree.
So where does the NBA stand at All-Star break? What are we thinking in terms of what we're seeing, and what the second half is going to look like? And I'm not a huge NBA fan necessarily, but Rich kind of touched on something, I think, for sure. But where do you guys see the NBA at this point in the season? All-Star break. Yep, Ken. Whoever wants to chime in, feel free.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rich.
I just think OKC's going to take.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Rich.
I'm done. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. You clear, I think.
I was just saying that I think OKC is going to win the whole thing. They just by far seem like the superpower in the NBA. They just
seems to be the consensus, right?
Got Chet Holmgren back. They already were playing great. Now you add that extra component. I just don't see anybody beating them, barring any injuries.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting as we get closer. I think the stretch run is gonna be amazing, right? I think because if you look at the I think the difference between like 6 and 11 in the West is like 3 games or something like that, and it's super competitive. I think it's interesting. I like OKC too, but I wouldn't put money on it at all, right? Because be it they mess around, catch like Luka and say LeBron on a heater, and they could take them out, right? I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you, which is why I'm excited. I think in the East it's a little clearer. Boston, Cleveland, and New York. But the West is wide open, I think.
So I've got a question, kind of an impromptu, something that wasn't on the agenda. Is the NBA lacking star power? Because when I watch the NBA now, the skill level is through the roof, right? You mentioned OKC. They got a kid on OKC that's due for like a super max coming up, right? That he's supposed to be that kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the NBA has a lack of people watch the NBA not necessarily for the games all the time. It's really for the stars, star power. I don't know if the NBA has any. The young star power seems like they fumbled it. They fumbled the bag. What's my man's name down in New Orleans? Zion Williams fumbled the bag. The kid in Memphis. They didn't fumble the bag, but they kind of that star power. I just don't see anybody that has that steps outside of basketball that makes people say, I want to watch. That's just how it seems to me. And I'm just a casual fan. That's how it is for me. I haven't watched a game I maybe watched part of a game, but I just don't see a whole lot of it. That's my viewpoint. What do you guys think about that?
I'll jump in real quick. I don't typically watch NBA until like after Christmas. So start of season, I'm not even paying attention. And then the playoffs with the NFL's happening, I kind of passively watching. But now I'm starting to get into it. And to answer your star power question, Paul, there are stars out there. The league tries to do a decent job of promoting them. But what I've noticed is a lot of those guys aren't really dynamic, right? Like Jason Tatum. Like Jason Tatum is a superstar in the league, right?
Correct.
Jason Tatum don't have a dynamic personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got Brown on the team who is a very intellectual dude, but he's not dynamic. And I say he's not dynamic. He's not dynamic. They're not dynamic in the ways that people want them to be dynamic. Charles Barkley, right?
Right.
Solid player. All-star. I know Ken hates him. But
Philly.
He gave you talking points, and he was a wild boy. So he was dynamic. People either love him or you hate him.
And Dennis Rodman.
MJ goes without saying. Isaiah Thomas. Those guys were superstars. So you have those superstars now, but they don't have dynamic personalities that make you want to I'm dropping everything I'm going to do to watch one. We're in a transition right now. LeBron's kind of on his way out. Even KD, who is like one of the best skilled big men to ever play the freaking game.
30,000 points.
He is going to exit the league, and everybody's going to keep moving on. There ain't nobody going to hardly pause. And he's probably going to be one of the best players that ever done it. Right? Yep. So it's just that level of dynamic that personality the lay fan can't relate to.
Right. And I can't. To me, it's like even Wemby. He's going to be a great player, but can he carry the lead? Who's going to carry the lead? And I just don't know. From where I'm standing, I don't know who seems like they're ready to step up and do that.
Yeah, I like the trend that is happening here, right? The one thing I love the NBA my whole life, but the one thing I just felt was always the problem is how much they rode the dynamic personalities and created, you know, characters, right? That then had charisma, so to speak. Some of it fake, right? Some of it manufactured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like a Charles Barkley, right? That's why I don't. Whatever. He's the worst. This is the only sport where we ask it to be about their charisma rather than the game and the skill. And like, think about what you said about Wemby. Wemby, I agree with you. He's probably in the charisma. He's in the right place in San Antonio because the guys who came before him, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, they were light on charisma. But you have never seen anything as skilled as what that guy is, right? And that is plenty. That is plenty to celebrate. That is plenty to advance. That's plenty to put on TV. Because if we make it about the sport,
I disagree.
But that's not what the lay fan turns in for, though. And that's the difference. I think that's where Paul's question is going. Who's going to carry it? And they carry the league on what the lay fan is going to turn in to watch the game for, not what the purists like yourself and Rich are, who recognize that skill level. A lot of folks don't know what that skill level is, and they're not tuned in for that.
But I was going to say, we've seen that skill level. It just didn't meet the viewer. This is the thing. I blame the league for not cultivating and finding a way to, you know, you had the battle between Larry and Magic, and people followed it because it was a competitive battle from college to pro. But what I was going to say about never seeing anybody like Wemby, Bol Bol has those kind of skills. He just, number one, doesn't have the charisma and didn't have the following to bring. Man, that dude can come down that floor with the rock, just like a Wemby. He's good. I don't know if you've seen him play. Bol Bol is nice. I think when you get into certain situations, coaches don't acknowledge what the people bring to the table. That dude, was he 7'1", 7'2"? Come on, kid.
Bol Bol.
Yeah.
Bol Bol has skills, but what I've noticed about him, and especially if you compare him to Wemby, he ain't played as much basketball as Wemby. And I don't know what his work habit is. I don't even know when he started playing basketball, but just watching him, I could tell it's not as natural as it is with Wemby. That's just my viewpoint.
Well, I'll say this. Wemby is more polished when it comes to in the lane and whatnot. But what I'm saying is somebody with the rock, that height, that can run the floor, it's not that rare. I just feel like Bol Bol didn't fit the description of what they wanted to attach the NBA thing to. Now, I agree with you. Wemby is far more polished. He's far more polished. But it's not, I mean, I don't know. I guess I watched this one game where Bol Bol was doing it all, and I was like, that's Wemby. But anyway.
He has flashes of brilliance. I have seen that. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I can't. I'm not going to comment on Bol Bol, but I would say that if Wemby wins, he has the making, because they want the game to be international. So if Wemby finds a way to win like Duncan did, and I think he has more personality than Duncan too. I think he's young and finding himself, but I can see him come out of it because he got a little dog in him. If you watched him in the Olympics, or if you watch the game, I forget who he played the other night, he'll look at you. He doesn't back down from anybody. So I think he's still finding himself, but he had the look, which again, when Bobo don't have that look. But they're two different players.
That's cold. That's cold.
I can't believe we put Bobo in the conversation. Come on, Huck. When you say he didn't play, come on, man. His father was Manute Bol, who played in the league. Bobo been around.
University of Bridgeport, baby.
Well, forgive me, kid. I think
I'm mad
I got
again,
mesmerized
P.
by one
I'm mad
game.
again. Bol Bol and Wemby in the same. Come on.
So let me ask you guys. Go ahead, continue, Rich. Go ahead, continue,
I
Rich.
was going to say, I just think that Bobo didn't have the look that they wanted to say, because he's amazing too. I mean, when you think about what he can do with the rock at that height. Now, is he as polished as Wemby? No. But I'm telling you, I sat and watched the game and could not believe what he was doing with the rock.
Rich, I'll leave it with this, and this is I've said this about numerous players, that when you are gifted and it's a natural talent, you're not thinking through what your next move is. Wemby has a natural talent the way he does things from a reaction standpoint, because he's done them so many times. He's drilled them so many times. I look at Bol Bol and a lot of other players like him who have flashes of brilliance, but their game seems calculated. Like they have to think about what their move is going to be. And I think that's the biggest difference when you start talking about that natural talent, and where they're playing the game, they're just adjusting to what happens to them. Bol Bol, he can make a move. He'll have something in his mind, and it could be a great move. But if that defensive player shuts off his first option, he's stuck. He's looking for a pass. As opposed to a natural player who's like, I'm just reacting to what you do. Either you're going to give me the shot, I'm going to go by you, or I'm going to make a pass because it's a Florida game. And I think there's a lot of players in the league who are like that, where you can see that natural talent versus you can see I call it the fabricated talent. You see it a lot more in the college level than you see the pro.
The look on kid's face. He can't believe we said Bobo this many times.
I can't believe we still talking about Bol Bol. I'm for it. Bol Bol.
He can't believe.
But hey, I'm kind of watching Bol to that game. Like I still can't believe he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that to the experts. I know who he is, but I've never really seen him play. I heard he,
and you ain't missed nothing.
He's decent.
That's why you ain't seen him.
Look, well, as a closing comment from my end, and somebody told me I'm supposed to be fair and impartial. I'm probably not very fair and impartial, but either way, it seems like the NBA is kind of at the point where I felt like the WNBA used to be. They had a lot of skilled players. I've seen women's basketball, college, pro. They've always been very skilled. Before Caitlin Clark got to the WNBA, they had people that could play, but they just didn't have a vehicle. They didn't have stars. They didn't have superstars. I kind of feel like the NBA might be getting to that point because the older stars, the older guys that were superstars, are getting older. You know, you got the guys that should be superstars now. I just don't see them there. But that's just, again, from a casual point of view. But let's move on.
You got to ask your sons about this, man. The problem is we're all over 50. This is a generational conversation. And if KJ was here, he'd tell us we were tripping. So
maybe.
Especially about the Bol Bol comments.
Especially about that part.
Hey, but he's a basketball fan, though, right?
Absolutely.
He's a basketball fan. So I'm talking about just the average casual walk down the street, might watch a game or two. It'll be interesting to see where the NBA goes in the next few years. But let's just jump to our last few topics here. Politics. We are throwing in some politics since everything is hot and heavy. And the first topic or first question was Elon Musk and DOGE. Why give them this power? Why give them this power? So can you pose this question? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's just he is dangerous, man. He's easily the most dangerous person that Washington's seen maybe ever, right? I mean, Trump in his chaotic way is one thing, but Elon Musk in his all the money in the world, smart enough to know how to get shit done, and destructive enough with to be unconscious about breaking things, just makes this a very tenuous time. And I'm not so sure that 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 we can recover from this, right? Because I guess we could if we stop now, because USAID is one thing, but the Department of Education is another, right? The IRS is another, right? You break those things, it's gonna be hard to put them back together.
Yep. All right, Ty, Ken, thoughts?
I think you asked the question, how do we, I think the question is how do we get here? It's paid for, right? I mean, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The most recent press that I've seen was from the Oval Office, and why give him his powers? Because he paid for that power. And to Ken's point, when you have inanimate amounts of cash along with the ability to think through the levers you can pull in order to increase that, and while you are continuing to marginalize other folks, it's very dangerous. But I mean, you can't tell me his expertise is so valuable that someone who is familiar with laws and diplomacy and darn right moral conviction could come in and stand in that position and make the comments and drive the changes that are being proposed without ramifications. And I think we're still in the early phases of what all that looks like. And I think as more people start to recognize just how dangerous he is, the action will take place. But to Ken's point, some of that has to happen before it goes too much further down the track, or it may be irreversible.
Yep. Ty, you got any comments on this?
Hey, I don't. It's amazing to see. I just don't think there's anyone else who could bring someone in like that.
Right.
If another president, no matter who it was, did that, I mean, to come in and uproot the systems, and you look at what he's done with his companies once he's taken them over. I mean, to come in and stream. I mean, I could see, at least give me a little time to feel that you know. Give me a year to kind of see how things are going, to kind of get a little read on it. But to come in the first couple of weeks and do this without having the chance to get a lay of the land and just, get an idea of how it's going to affect people or what's this and that. But to come in where you don't have any experience in this side of it, like he was saying, diplomacy and the rest of this, it's mind blowing. So honestly, every day I just sit back. I mean, just how comfortable he is to have his kid in there with a scarf and just chilling. I mean, it's I've just never seen it. So honestly, I just sit back and just say, hey, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I've never seen it, so I'm scared for the country, and I hope it works out. I mean, somewhere along the line, look, end of the day, I'm rooting for America. And at this point, all I can say is I hope it works out, but I can't see it. I mean, you're breaking down systems in a matter of weeks that, again, if you gave me a year to kind of assess it and came back and we did a study, like anybody else would with a company. I'm going to come in, I'm going to get a lay of the land, I'm going to look at it, and going to look at this and that. But just to come in with a plan already and just to you're affecting families and lives, and it's not affecting his family or his life. So, hey, it's easy to do when it's not yours. And like I said, it could be right to make that. I don't have no problem with the cuts if I felt there was some thought and the process to put in for it. But I'm just amazed that even down to the federal government. I mean, why do we have Congress or these people in place if someone can come in and just say, I'm going to fire everybody who doesn't agree with me, I'm going to get rid of this and that, and the government, and we're going to pay for it, taxpayers are going to pay for it, without having a discussion with the people, and that's what I'm about. Again, it could be the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's not, but man, to do it unilaterally without even talking to the House and Senate and approving the budget. I mean, why do we have them? And honestly, as a citizen, that's where I sit back. People are like, well, what we're gonna do? I said, look, I don't know what we can do. We have senators and House representatives sitting in Washington right now, and they're not doing anything. So don't look at little old me, because at the end of the day, they're right there with them and not doing anything. So apparently it can be done. And it's just amazing. I thought this big democracy that we fought for in this constitution, I thought you had to have checks and balances. And it's showing that that's not true. And that, hey, they may push back for a minute, a judge will put in the order to halt, but at the end of the day, they all bend the knee. And again, I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but man, it has to be some thought and processes put in to show that it makes sense. And that's the part that scares me. But hey, I'm black in America, and we'll figure. Hey, we survivors. So at the end of the day, hey, God is in control. I'm not. I've thrown my hands up at this whole thing, and it's gonna work out how it works out. And I can't worry about it like I used to. It's 3 weeks in. We got another 3 years, 11 months in a week. So I can't do it. So
great points. Great points, Rich. You voted for. Did you vote for this, or did you just vote for Trump and you didn't think this was the way this is going to pan out? Do you agree with the execution of what they're doing and the processes they're going, the procedures they're using?
I listened to a lot of all the way because I knew I was going to vote for him. I mean, the stuff that's going on, he talked about it. He said he said go into every department and audit. I don't have a problem with audit because that's what my tax dollars went for. What I voted. I don't like when you pull
you're breaking up a little more, Rick. You're breaking up a little bit more.
When you pull the Band-Aid off of a wound, there's always a little pain with it. There's always a level of pain. But so I expected to be a little pain. I expect some discomfort. But when I see these politicians, like Ty said, doing nothing, there are some that are doing nothing, and then there's a lot of them that are screeching because they don't want exposure of their malfeasance. The very malfeasance that they have been transparent talking about. And we talked about how USA only makes up 1% of the U.S. budget. Well, if 97% of the USA money is corrupt or corrupted and they're getting kickbacks, we need to know about it. We need to know about the politicians that write up these frivolous bills and then the money's not really going to anything, but it's going back to their pockets. And that's both sides of the aisle. Mitch McConnell, dirty as all get out. He needs to be held accountable. But so does Nancy Pelosi. So does what's your girl? He called Pocahontas. Warren. All of them need to be held to account. And the moment you start asking them how they come in, I got you, Ken, how they come in with assets of $2 million, but now they're sitting on $80 to $200 million worth of assets. It makes you wonder how they acquired.
So let me ask you a question though. So they can investigate those things separate from cutting off funds that have already been approved by Congress. That's the part that I see is really an issue. Congress has Republicans, Democrats, they approve these funds. They're coming in now and just saying, hey, we're cutting these funds and you can't have them. And that's the part that I think is concerning to me because they don't really have that authority and no one's saying anything about it. They should. I got you, kid. I got you. I mean, there's a process and procedures for everything. Trump has essentially said, I control everything when he cuts these funds and says this department should not exist. I don't mind you going through and doing an audit. And one thing about DOGE is they don't have enough personnel to do an actual audit, right? Ken worked in public accounting. They don't have enough people on their staff to audit these big companies, in my estimation. Ken, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think they have enough personnel to do a real audit, and I don't think they're doing a real audit, to be honest with you. So
no, they
Ken,
don't.
go ahead and
Right?
chime in.
They don't have they don't have the enough people, and if you listen to the folks they're talking about, they're a bunch of young folks. But all of this like we're burying the lead on Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is the head of Doge and going in and looking for all this money and fraud. Elon Musk's company, Starlink, is one of the largest contractors from the government on the planet. Who the hell is checking his company and the shit and kickbacks he's getting in this kind of situation?
Well, you saw
this is ridiculous.
You
This
saw what
is
happened today,
absurd.
Ken. But to Ken's point, think about it. They fired everybody that was investigating his companies this week. So everybody who was giving you this, like he said, I don't mind the checks and
Inspector
balances and the
Generals.
auditing. But man, like Ken just said, everybody who was investigating Starlink, and you went down the line today, they fired everybody who was doing the investigation. What's that going to do? Push everything back and time back while approving him for $304 million. So you're cutting all this money and pulling back while approving, but while you're doing this, you got time to approve his $300 and $400 million for his project and to go to space. It's crazy. So if anything, all spending should be cut right now. If you're gonna cut, then cut it, but you can't do that while approving stuff like that. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Rich, that doesn't make your head explode. Like
No, because he's providing a product. I mean, the advancements that he's come up with in space flight, they're talking about we'll be able to go from New York to London in 2 hours. It'd be different if he wasn't producing anything, if there was nothing being produced. But the Starlinks will make it so that if our internet system was ever to go down, everyone can get connection to it. There was a commercial during the Super Bowl where they were talking about Starlink with T-Mobile. My phone's about to die, gentlemen. But in essence, it'd be different if I get what you're saying. I know he has big contracts, and the worst thing they could do is to have him be involved with stuff that is a conflict of interest. But we've had a whole week. Last week, you guys talked about how there were so many programs that were going to be hurt. They had a whole week. The Democrats who are yelling and upset, a whole week to point out specific examples where people were going to be hurt. And all I've heard them do is yell and scream about how they can't stand Elon, how he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. He wasn't elected and all this other stuff. But he's doing what the electorate asked Donald Trump to do. Donald Trump appointed him to do these things. The electorate wanted this. That's why his poll numbers are going up, because people are.
I disagree on some of the cut stuff. I don't think they expected him to. You still there, Richard? You get cut out. He might have got dropped. All right, so I won't comment. Since Rich can't really comment back, so I'll let that go. But I think we could all agree that yes, wasteful spending is bad. We can all agree on that. Wasteful spending is bad. No one wants that. But there's a way to go about making these cuts. There's a way to go about it.
I just want to say it again. I just think I just think the lead here is, like you talked about audit and all that kind of stuff. You got a guy who's supposedly looking for those cuts, who's making a killing off the contracts from them. It's the ultimate conflict of interest that has ever been. Right? Like whatever he finds, it pales in comparison to the shit that he's probably getting the funnel back through whatever control and position of influence he has. Right? It's a drop in the bucket.
It is. And
It's
to
true.
fire every
That's true.
lawyer that's investigating his company.
Yes.
And then all you're gonna do is replace them with other folks that's gonna yes people. So at the end of the day,
There,
hey, you control it. You got the hand in the hen house. They're doing
there has not been
it's unbelievable, man.
there has not been a single move that has been made yet that has not been rooted in revenge or profiting.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
not been a single move that has taken into
Been about the people.
consideration how I'm going to help the people who has supposedly elected me into office. Not
That is a
single
great
one.
point. I posed that question to some people that I know are definitely Trump voters. Just the question was simply, and this is not to poke anybody or to troll anybody, but the question was simply, what executive orders or actions has he signed or put in play that are actually aimed at the economy? Simple question. Nobody can answer that because none of the things he has is he signed or the actions have been in that direction. So, we have kind of a one-sided conversation on this piece. So I think we'll leave that. We're pushing a little long here, but there are two questions I want to ask. And these might be a little controversial, but I've talked about this with Rich. Rich gets on me about this, but the question is 50 old? Is 50 old?
Depending on what you're doing.
I'm saying,
Because how old you are.
Yeah, well, that too, but still. Yeah. Folks wear skinny jeans, yes.
I look at it like this. I remember when I was 20 years old, 21 years old. I remember my days at A&T, and I remember when someone would say anything north of 40, I thought they were ancient and they were heading towards, retirement. And as you grow older, your perspective changes. You take care of yourself, and if you're fortunate enough to keep some health about you, you can still do a lot of things at 50 years old. So I think it all becomes relative. And to your point, Ty, it depends on what you're trying to do. And then secondly, it depends on how old you are.
Yeah, because I'm always I always say I'm old, and they're like, "Don't say you're old. Don't say you're old." You can't stop your body from aging. You gonna feel it. When I hit, I think it was 40, and I know you say just a number, but things started feeling different. Like they just feel different. You pull things a lot easier, so forth. Once I hit 50, the weirdest thing, certain things just started feeling different. Recovery time takes longer, stuff like that. So I understand that we feel young at 50, and we may even look younger, to people our age or whatever. But 50's old.
But I would say, if you position it correctly, for everything that you can no longer do or can't do as well or can't do as fast, or there are some things that you can do, right? That
True.
the years have brought on.
Go ahead,
like the old folks used to say, get a little fat behind your neck, got a little bit of fat behind your neck, you can think a little bit more, you can do some more things. And I think that the balance becomes how you increase those things that you can do to make you not as concerned with the things that you no longer can do. And
hopefully
it's
you don't want to
amazing
do
me
some of the
the
things
that you see
that
now
you
that
used to do.
I wish I could have seen that in my 20s and 30s.
What was that, Tom?
I said, hopefully you don't want to do some of those things you used to do.
No, that's right.
Yeah, you would like you're saying. I think the
Yeah.
things you can do, I
Yeah.
think you don't worry about the things I used to worry about or what
Right.
people thought and things like that. I think you stay in in your lane.
Yeah.
Right.
And to Ken's credit, you can be a young 50. It can be old, but you can be a
Right.
young old 50.
Yeah.
Because if you take care
Right.
of yourself, and I think I think the surprise is if you take care of yourself the whole time, then you don't have that drop off isn't so steep.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
but you can't wait like most of us now, me included, till you gain weight or till you kind of start feeling a certain way. Now I need to get this back. You know what I mean? So I think if you take the time to do the stuff, to do your stretching, to do the things you need to do to make yourself feel like you used to when you got out of bed.
Right.
But so if you stretching, if you're doing those things, now all of a sudden you can get that feeling back. But you
Mhm.
can't just get up and do it without putting the
Right.
work in. And I
So
think that's where the difference is.
Yeah, to Ty's point, like I think I shared with you guys the book that I kind of read, and in many ways that changed my perspective. Like I think in terms of longevity, and so starting
What's that
now.
book? What's that book, kid? What's that book, by the way?
And over there,
I can't stand the fact he got all that
out,
hair.
out, outlive, right? Outlive is the book, right? And it's just a book. It's a book about longevity. He has a podcast. I listen to his podcast, and there's a whole study of just and it's basically got two principles. One, living longer, and then living better while you're here, right? Such that you don't start like most people talk about you basically your last 20 years is a decline, right? How can you take the angle off the decline, so to speak, right? And so I feel better at 53 than I did at 43, right? Because I eat better, I sleep better. I'm in working out every day. I know how to work out now. I know how to do all the right things. And so, no, I don't feel old at 50. I feel great at 50, right? But that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen without work. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen without doing things differently. Because Father Time is still undefeated, but you can fend them off and slow them down a little bit.
Right. And I will say I will say I'm old, but I'm still out trying to ride dirt bikes, and I'm jumping jumps when I see some jumps and out there. And I'm risking, major crashes. But yeah, I feel that I'm old, but I'm still doing it even though I'm old. So that's kind of how I feel. And Rich, I told him you get on me all the time about saying we're old. Oh, I'm a realist, man. That's
but I think
it's okay to be a realist, but I also think that Scripture says that life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Power of the word. There you go. I was gonna say the same thing.
We got.
I didn't say about my deathbed. I just said I'm old.
But still, if you say you
hopefully
old,
I'm not. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not.
Your body is listening to you speaking it. So
hey, I think I'm listening.
There might be a better way. I just at the times I was getting on you about it. If you remember clearly, it was because you were sharing a little too much. In the presence of other company.
Rich, I got gray hair, man. I got gray hair. You can't get around that.
You ain't got to tell them that. Let them figure it out.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I'm just old, man. So that the last major topic, just quick one here. I was watching Soul of a Man podcast. You can catch that on YouTube. They have an episode about dating after divorce, right? But I realized that I know a lot of single men our age, right? So the question is, if you were at your age now, 50, 51, 52, whatever age you are, if you were single, would you be looking to get married still?
Let me answer that.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine being single again. I'm so happy
I'm married. Not again. Not again.
I can't even think about it. I have no idea what you're talking about. But go ahead.
Listen, not single again. Not single again. But if you had never ever,
I can imagine not being there. So I'll mute myself. I'll stay out of this.
That is the response I thought I would get, Ty. That is the exact response I thought I would get. I just wanted to know what you guys would say.
Hey man, look, as previously, it's tough out here. I mean, the scene ain't the scene is the same, but the game has changed. And to Ty's point, joking kind of serious, I couldn't imagine being single in this environment and trying to date. And because get back to the getting old thing, right? With that comes some wisdom. With that comes some understanding of yourself. With that comes some things that you do on a day in, day out basis that are non-negotiable. And when you start talking about dating so late in your life, you're talking about potentially having to change things that you've been doing for X amount of years. And some of those things may be for the better. They may be health wise, they may be financial. But some of them may just be some idiotic stuff that you ain't had to deal with in your whole life. And now why would you have to now? So I just couldn't imagine, that world and having to deal with it on a day in, day out basis. It would be very tough.
Right. Well, and the reason the whole reason I asked is if you reach 50 years old, 55, you've never been married, why do you have to? What says that's a requirement in life? You can still be happy and have a maid or whatever it may be, but it seems like I know people that are still on that bandwagon to get married for whatever reason, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, but at this point, why change your life?
My motivation, if I was in that predicament, would be that I want the cow and I want to obey commandments. So I would wipe her up. And obviously there would need to be a serious relationship with it. You understand what I'm saying when I say I want the cow?
I hear you.
Yeah.
So it's just for me,
a big old heifer.
For me, I just sleep better when I feel like
Shout out to Squeak.
Do the right thing, So,
but that's probably why you married Dada.
Yeah. And just like Ty, man, I couldn't imagine myself with any other.
I couldn't imagine anybody putting up with my crap. So, I got very lucky.
There's
I've been saying it ever since I met Kim. So.
You would be right. You would be right. So So our closing portion here, we give each person a minute or two just to say something that's on their mind for the week. So I'll let you guys go ahead and jump in. Rich, you want to go first?
Yeah. A little house cleaning. Last week, I was getting water for my dog. I was not in the restroom. I appreciate y'all for. It was somebody that spoke up and said he's getting water. When I looked back at the video, I was pretty embarrassed by that. So, blame it on the being new to this. And I just want to say it's a blessing, as we get older, to be able to be in the company of other intelligent brothers that allow you to speak your piece about stuff that we all are just 2-3 years removed from a worldwide social experiment where people got ostracized. I truly was cut off from a whole lot of people for thinking differently. But I think it's a blessing to have access to some sharp cats that allow me to speak my piece and be comfortable in it. You know what I mean? And even though y'all see me as totally wrong, it's okay, So I can't say how much I enjoy this. I really do appreciate being a part of this.
Excellent. We're glad to have you on as well, Rich, man. It's been great camaraderie. Ty, you want to jump in next?
Yeah, hey, Rich, I did know what you said, man. I definitely don't think you're totally wrong. Just about 95%. But
I'll come along. Give me time.
But I will say though that I think we all need that. This is a form of therapy. I think, growing up, in our community, having psychiatrists or somebody to talk to was taboo, crazy talk. But I think, man, like you said, as you age, I ain't gonna say get older. I'm not gonna use that word, but as you age, as life hits you, as you start losing people that's important to you, your parents and friends your age, and you kind of need that go-to. We talk about it with us, iron sharpens iron, but
man.
the good thing about what's going on is people can say mental health, and I talk to this, and I talk to that, without feeling shame. And so I think that's what's changed for the better, because our community was one of those where, we didn't talk about that. We had to be strong. You had to, and we're all going through something, and to be able to get that out without being judged, I think that's going to add to the quality of life going down and forward too. So I'm thankful for that.
Amen.
Awesome.
Huh?
Yeah, I won't go down too deep of a path, but I want to shout out a quick Black History Month moment, something I didn't know that came across, and I thought it'd be cool to bring it to the group here. 1936 Olympics. Everyone's familiar with Berlin and Jesse Owens and the feat that he went over and shocked Hitler and everyone else who was going down a different path. But in the 200-meter race, the second place finisher was also an American and also an African American, Matthew McKenzie Robinson. And while he only finished 4/10 of a second behind Jesse in that 200 meters, and never really got the fame and glory that Jesse got. Definitely not the accolades and definitely not the financial. But he returned back home and he became a janitor and he worked in a high school. But what a lot of people don't know is the example of hard work and good ethics that he had helped pave the way for his younger brother, Jackie Robinson, who went on to do great things in life. So just a little tidbit that I came across I thought was very interesting. Never heard of it. Just something else to think about, the impact and the contributions that we have continued to make as people throughout the years that never fully get appreciated. And I want to take a moment to appreciate that.
That's neat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Ken?
So Pete, for me, it's a little bit of my appreciation for history, and always trying to get caught up in kind of current times and democracy and the experiment, the U.S. experiment, right? It's been on my mind. I think Ty, you talked about a little bit of some of the things we all thought would happen in certain situations. I just hope we understand as a collective what democracy means and the difference in having it and not having it, right? And I think especially for us as Black people, when it just wasn't that long ago that we had full rights, equal rights, or even support from the government to kind of do so. If you think about it in the context of equal rights for all, it really wasn't until the 1964 Civil Rights Act that kind of looked at what we used to call protected class to kind of make sure that we had driving towards a more equal playing field. And so in many ways, that's fallen here in the last 10 years, from Supreme Court decisions to policies now. We talked about DEI on the last pod. I hope we, especially as a people, understand what that means as we continue to kind of go about our days. And yes, the price of eggs and our core belief system and all those kind of things about what we see and how we're at times troubled by what others do. I hope we understand that rights can be taken, because for people that like us on this, they weren't there all the time. They just became processes that tried to equal the playing field a bit. And in many ways, while those processes like DEI were imperfect, they were to try to close a gap that hopefully we come to appreciate could be gone for some time.
Excellent. Great point, Ken. My closing shot, I've got two. I was going to mention some things about USAID, and I think I will just quickly here. What we're seeing with that, it has actually impacted. We say we don't know anybody that's impacted. I have a friend that it actually impacted. She has a business, agriculture business, and they no longer are getting funds for her business. So those cuts are directly impacting people, and I think it's about 80+% of those funds for USAID go to businesses that are in the United States, farmers, aid companies, or businesses that nonprofits that help people in other countries. So that's just a point I wanted to make, because a lot of people don't see that, but it is affecting people. And then in the vein of this being Black History Month, I talked about my guy James Stewart. Well, he's not my guy, but guy I follow, James Stewart, right?
That's your dude.
His brother, Malcolm Stewart. I'm going to put him up here if I can find it. Hold on. His brother, Malcolm Stewart, won his first 450 main event in Tampa, Florida this week. 50,000 fans. He and James Stewart, his brother, are the first two brothers to ever win races in this series in the history of the sport. So
that's awesome.
They did set
brothers is in black guys, or brothers is in blood brothers?
No, they're
Siblings.
both brothers, and they're both brothers as black guys and brothers. And here's another point. His brother was on the broadcasting team that night.
Nice.
That he won that race.
Nice.
He's been racing professionally for 15 years, and this was his first major class win. So he stuck with it, and they said, they're in the history books now, as he said. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm always going to touch on some motorcycle stuff at some point. And Ken, I'm gonna get you to a race at some point, just so I can say I got Ken Merritt to see a Supercross race.
Hey, Paul, question. Is that 450, like 450 cc's or 450 miles, or what is that?
No, it's 450 cc's. It was actually in the Tampa Stadium. Where
that's a lot of engine
the Buccaneers, but yeah, it is. That's one of the points. It is serious business. These guys are supreme athletes. We're gonna have a debate on individual or team sports. No, we're gonna have that time. We're gonna have that. Individual and team sports, we're gonna have that.
No, we're giving this enough time tonight. We're gonna clap for the Stewart brothers.
So look, we have a party shot for today. I found another quick video that I actually liked. So let me see if I can grab that real quick. And maybe we'll get you guys a smile before the end. It was a lot of mad in this episode. But that is what it is.
That's the name of it, though.
That's the name of it. If we wouldn't get mad, shit, it wouldn't be a podcast.
There we go. So let me grab this video. This was I thought this one was pretty hilarious. Let me see if I can get this to play. Give me just a second.
What the hell was that?
Is that a squirrel?
It was a squirrel. I've seen a squirrel do that in my life, dude.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'd have about the similar reaction.
Yeah, that almost happened to me on the backyard a couple weeks ago.
I've never seen a squirrel do that in my life, and I grew up in the country. I was like, that was crazy.
Yeah, I opened my trash can and put a bag in there.
I was out there hunting with 16-gallon shotgun.
Yeah. I went to open the thing to put trash in the bin outside, and the squirrel looked at me like, ah! And I was like, I slammed it close. I was like, dang.
Oh my God.
And P, I did go check my camera to see if the camera caught it, but the camera didn't catch it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
now I
Don't mess
close.
with wildlife, man. You
don't mess
never know
with
what you're gonna get.
Yeah. So anyway,
for
Don't be
sure.
messing with this
Well,
track.
all right.
Gentlemen,
I love you guys.
Hey,
it's been a pleasure.
and more importantly, it's Valentine's, so we love. Hey, so make sure you with the wife
Glad you
and the
brought that up.
kids.
Appreciate it,
Happy
man.
don't you
Thanks,
leave here without that. Come on now.
That's
Happy
right.
Valentine's, ladies.
Happy
We love
Valentine's.
you.
Happy Valentine's, ladies.
Yeah, they put up with all y'all shit. You got to go do something.
You're right. I know that's right.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure, fellas. We'll talk to you soon. Talk to you next week.
All right.
Later.
Much love, brothers.
Thanks for joining.
Stop, look, and listen. Enjoy the vibe. Me and my peoples, we keep it live. So take a toke or take a sip. Hold up, don't take a sniff. I hope you're feeling this deep in your bones. What you been missing? A mellow tone. Not from the city or from your hood. I got you smiling and feeling good. The show is done. Relax a bit. I hope the people will fuck with it. Open your mind, open your heart. Dialogue will hopefully start. But if not, we'll say we tried. We didn't run, we didn't hide. We love this world, the people too. We did it all just for you. Out.